Hey, Marc Millan, glad to connect with you today. And today I am continuing to share another chapter from a book I've written called Leading Worship 10 Simple Truths. And today we're covering chapter 7. And chapter 7 is kind of one of the more serious chapters of the book because we talk about pain. So chapter 7 is titled Growing Pains. And I want to read you the passage that kind of kicks off the chapter. I want to share some thoughts, and then I want to leave you with a few questions. This is one of my favorite verses in the Bible. Psalm 119, verse 71 says, "It was good for me to suffer so that I might learn your statutes." It was good for me to suffer that I might learn your statutes. One of the hardest things about our walk with the Lord is the process of sanctification. Now, I'll use a different word. Sanctification obviously is in scriptures. It teaches us how God's taken us from who we were before we knew Him in Christ. And then when we come into the family of God, when we are born again, we become sanctified. So God declares us holy and blameless in His sight, but there's a process to becoming who He's declared us to be, and that is the process of sanctification. Another word that's often used, that I use in the chapter, is the word maturity. Maturity. Growing up, right? It's so hard to grow up. It's so much easier when we get to stay right where we are. It's so much easier to just kind of get comfortable and familiar with everything. And when things are bad and when things don't feel good, we can complain about it and we can just let the world know that this is wrong and this is not okay. And all that seems to make sense, but what it also means is that I don't grow. I stay stuck because I'm constantly pointing the finger at something else, at someone else. And as long as I put the blame on someone else or something else, I never have to grow up. And that is a hard truth to swallow. I mean, gosh, I still find myself realizing that, okay, I'm the one that needs to grow here, and I'm the one that needs to mature. So maturity is a topic we cover in this chapter, and also the idea of pain. Ministry will involve pain because people are messy, because people are not perfect. And so ministry is not perfect, churches are not perfect, and we get hurt. We get hurt by what people say, by what people do. We get hurt by people's emotional dysfunction. But quite honestly, we have those things ourselves. And so we have to learn how to go through those things, grow from those things, and move on from those things at the same time. So growth is a part of ministry. Growth is a part of leading worship and being part of a worship team. But one of the things I mentioned in the chapter is there's a difference between harm and pain. Pain, I believe, is a part of growing, and I believe is just a part of our human condition and is part of our ministry reality. However, harm, God never intends to harm anyone, but God will use pain to grow us. As David said in that verse, it was good for me to suffer. He's talking about going through painful situations. But then he says, so that I might learn from your statutes. I want to say this before I close. I am not saying that God causes people to suffer physically, to suffer all these things. I believe that the human condition is the human condition, and we live on earth, and so earth is different from heaven, and God designed earth to be a certain way, and we invited sin, and sin cursed what it's like to be on earth. So I want to clarify that. That is not what I'm saying. When I talk about suffering, a lot of times it's hard for us to go through situations. That could be a transition from one place to another. It could be losing a job. It could be just frustration in a season of ministry. Those things can cause us to have pain or to suffer emotionally. And God always can use those things to grow us and mature us, as Paul says, from glory to glory, so that we might become mature believers in Christ. So that's what we cover in chapter 7. I want to read you just one or two questions from the end of the chapter. The first one is this: how do you respond when you feel offended? How do you respond when you feel offended? This took me years to grow in. when I felt offended or when I felt I had a dispute with someone, really that's an opportunity for growth right there. And then how are you getting coached or receiving feedback? How are you getting coached and receiving feedback? Sometimes hearing the truth that we need to help us grow is hard. So getting coached and getting used to receiving feedback is a huge step forward in growing. So I hope that helps you today. Until next time.